This is Wild About Utah.
Early this spring, a semi-truck with a long flatbed pulled into the USU parking lot next to the cemetery and parked. Lashed down firmly on the flatbed was a giant railroad spike covered in gold leaf and very impressive to see from a distance. But walking up to it, I could see it was covered in sculpted forms. There was an Indian astride a horse, a shaggy head of a buffalo. But what really caught my attention was the close-up of the buffalo eye staring right at me. Reflected in the pupil was a steam engine coming down the tracks right at me. I felt the chill of the inevitable crash. The train brought hunters with guns, hide hunters who killed and took only the hides, shipping them by the bale to industries back east. When there was no more buffalo to be shot, they collected the bones and shipped them to St. Louis to be crushed into fertilizer. You could see the crash coming and knew it would be devastating to the buffalo and the Indians whose livelihood depended on them. Walking around to the other side of the spike, I found a very different story. Here were the laborers who had laid down the transcontinental tracks, the Chinese, the Irish, the Civil War veterans, the Mormon graders, each standing proudly on the other's shoulders all the way to the top. I breathed in the nobility of these men for a difficult job well done. This giant golden spike's final home will be standing upright in a 23-acre public park in Brigham City, close enough to the Forest Street exit to be visible from I-15. Until then, we're going to have to wait to see the final two sides of the spike. But in the meantime, there is another new art piece to go see outside the Golden Spike National Park at Promontory Point. As I pulled into this parking lot, I was astonished to see a massive chunk of railroad track rising up from the ground and curving slightly to a vanishing point in the sky. I was reminded of a conversation I had had a few years ago when I was collecting train stories with a man who had once had a summer job hammering spikes on a railroad crew. He was 15, half the age and half the size of the other men, but he caught the rhythm. Tap the spike into place, swing the spike maul. 1, 2, 3, pick up the next spike. This story helped me understand the restless energy I felt looking at the track sculpture. One more tie, one more rail, one more spike, repeat. These tracks were going where no tracks had gone before. Outdoor public art can be storytelling at its best. And now a footnote for the engineers listening in. The giant golden spike is actually 43.2319 feet tall. That's because 43.2319 is the square root of 1869. This is Mary Hears, and I'm wild about Utah.